Now I'm going to use in my example today Go System Tax. So just select that, and once I've got these three items populated, I've got the settings for my engagement properties for my tax system. I'll click OK, and I'll say yes to ensure that if there were map numbers assigned to the accounts, the appropriate tax codes would be updated for those particular accounts. Now, if the accounts had been previously mapped with tax codes set up in the mapping database, changing the tax entity selection, as I mentioned, prompts the user to autofill the tax codes to use the newly selected tax entity's tax export codes. Again, this will only happen if the accounts are mapped and the mapping database has the tax codes assigned to the map numbers. So I did click OK to move past that last dialog. And in the U.S. version of Working Papers, there are multiple columns for assignment of tax codes and M3 codes to the map number. To see this, I select Engagement and Mapping. If I scroll to the right, I'm going to see the tax code columns. So the tax export code column is updated from the other tax code columns based on what I've selected in the engagement properties. In this particular file, I have updated the C Corp column, and those have been populated into my tax export code. So I have my C Corp, my S Corp, and if I scroll across a little bit further, we can also see the partnership and nonprofit columns. If I click in any one of these columns, I'm going to see the appropriate tax codes, and then I can assign the tax codes to the map number. That way, when the map number is assigned to the account will pick up the appropriate tax code as well. Now that's ideal to set up in your tax template. If you're doing tax trial balances, fantastic. Also, you can set it up in your audit, review, and compilation templates so that it makes it that much easier for the tax staff to export and deal with the tax software. Now we also have columns for the M3 codes, and if I scroll across a little bit further, we see M3 codes for the C Corp, S Corp, and partnership. Had these been populated, when I make the change in the engagement properties, the M3 code column would be updated according to the appropriate tax entity selected. Remember, if these are properly populated in your accounts, are mapped, and your client changes from a C Corp to an S Corp, then you'll only need to make the change in the engagement properties for those codes to be updated to the mapped accounts. Tax export codes and M3 codes can be assigned to map numbers in the mapping database by using the drop-down selector that you saw in their respective columns. And again, I'll just scroll over to those columns and show you the drop-down, which provides me access to the tax codes lists. Occasionally, when you're working in these tax codes, you'll want to add detail to a specific tax code. For example, I've got gross sales and receipts, and I may need to extend that so that a supporting table will show me the breakdown of those sales and receipts. Wherever you see an asterisk in the detail column, that gives me the ability to create a new tax code that's base tax code is the same as the one I'm looking at, and I can go from 0.01 up to 0.72 in my tax code numbering. I then just put in a description, and that's going to add it, my tax code for sales, for example, and that will put it into my tax code listing, and I can then assign that to my map number, which would push it through to the chart of accounts. I'm going to leave that in there and just click cancel here without making a selection in my tax export codes.